Hello, and welcome to this session on Microsoft's Enterprise Agreements. My name is Rich Gibbons, and it's my pleasure to take you through these slides. They support the Enterprise Agreements module in the Microsoft Licensing Solutions Specialist accreditation at getlicensingready.com. If you need reference material, you'll find handouts at that site as well. Let's take a look at the topics that we'll cover in this session. As I introduce the Enterprise Agreement to you, we'll look at it in the context of the other Microsoft Volume Licensing Agreements, and consider how an agreement is structured and how affiliates may be included. Then we'll get into the detail about the agreement itself, and first of all, we'll look at what I'll call a traditional Enterprise Agreement, which is based on the number of devices an organisation has. We'll talk about the minimums, and how customers order and pay for the two types of products they can order: enterprise products and additional products. If these aren't familiar terms to you, then rest assured we will cover them in detail. Then we'll look at an enterprise agreement that is based on the number of user subscription licenses, or user SLs, that an organisation wants to order. We'll follow a similar sort of structure and look at minimums, and then how a customer orders and pays for the products that are available. Then finally, we'll look at some additional benefits that are available through the Enterprise Agreement. So let's begin with seeing how the Enterprise Agreement fits in with Microsoft's other volume licensing agreements. I'm sure you're familiar with this slide. I find it really useful. You can see the Enterprise Agreement in the bottom right hand corner, and we can see that there are actually two types of Enterprise Agreement, one of which has the word subscription in it. We'll come to the differences between them shortly, but for the moment, let's consider where the Enterprise Agreements are placed in this diagram. They're on the bottom row, which means that they're aimed at organisations that want to buy a larger number of licenses. The minimums for the Enterprise Agreement changed on the 1st of July 2016 from 250 to 500 licenses, and so it's organisations that have 500 PCs or users that are likely to find an Enterprise Agreement useful. But the other part of an Enterprise Agreement is that it's a committed agreement, which means that the customer has to make a commitment to buy a certain number of certain products over a 3-year term. You can see that the other part of the diagram is transactional, and the agreements in this section are for customers who just want to buy what they want, when they want. We'll see that there are additional benefits for organisations that sign one of the committed agreements. Let's get a little more detail now about the differences between the two types of Enterprise Agreement. Both of these agreements allow customers to acquire licenses for on-premises software, such as Windows 10 and Office, or Windows Server and SQL Server, and that's shown by the little servers. However, the difference between the agreements is the background to that triangle. You'll see that it's solid on the left-hand Enterprise Agreement and dotty on the right-hand one. This means that the licenses acquired through an Enterprise Agreement are perpetual. The customer can use the software forever, but with an Enterprise Subscription Agreement, licenses for this software are subscription-based, and the customer may only use the software for as long as the agreement is active. For the Enterprise Agreements, that's 3 years. Otherwise, the agreements are the same. Software assurance is included in the purchase of all licenses for software, and they both allow customers to purchase licenses for online services. In both cases, these are subscription licenses. So in summary, the Enterprise Agreement is aimed at customers with more than 500 users or devices who are able to make a commitment to purchasing particular products, whether those are for on-premises software or online services. Software assurance is included on all purchases for software, and a customer may choose perpetual or subscription licenses for this. When a customer decides to purchase software or online services through an Enterprise Agreement, then there are terms and conditions that they need to accept. There are general terms and conditions laid out in the Microsoft Business and Services Agreement, and then further, more specific ones in the Enterprise Agreement itself. And that's not all. There's a further layer, which is the Enterprise Enrolments. Now, in everyday conversation we talk about the Enterprise Agreement, and that's what I did on the previous slide. Strictly speaking, a customer has an Enterprise Enrolment when they want to purchase perpetual licenses for software, and an Enterprise Subscription Enrolment when they want to purchase subscription licenses for software. Since the enrolments are, in fact, very similar to each other, I'll use the term Enterprise Agreement when I want to refer to both of them. Since Enterprise Agreements are aimed at the larger customer, they may well have a slightly more complicated organisational structure, and so we need to look at affiliates. An affiliate is a separate company from the one that has signed the agreements that we saw on the previous slide, but they are linked to the signing company in some way and want to buy under the same agreement. In the simplest example, an affiliate is a separate company that is owned by the signing company. But actually, it could equally be a company that owns the signing company. And you can see that ownership does not have to be 100%. But it does need to be more than 50%. Let's take an example of an organisation, perhaps Contoso, which has 5 subsidiaries, all of which are separate legal entities and are completely owned by Contoso. Contoso has decided that they want to acquire their software through an enterprise subscription enrolment, and as they sign the agreement, they can decide whether they include their affiliates or not. They can include some of them, none of them, or all of them. But all of them must follow the same commitments for the products that they buy, and we'll look at that detail in a moment. So we know the type of customer who may be interested in an enterprise agreement, and we know that they can buy software and online services. But we don't really have an idea yet of what commitment they need to make to sign the agreement. So let's take a look at that now. So we're going to start with a customer who wants perpetual licenses for their software and wants to make a commitment based on the number of devices that they have. When all the agreement documentation is signed, an initial order is made, and it's that I'd like to look at now. We know that the enterprise enrolment requires commitment, but what is this exactly? Well, the customer commits to license all of their devices with one or more of the enterprise products. The enterprise products are a small subset of products, so Windows 10 Enterprise E3, Office Professional Plus 2016, and the Core and Enterprise CAL suites. This means that you count all of your devices and then buy one of these products for all of them. So if I have 750 devices, and I want to include Office Professional Plus 2016 in my enrolment, then I need to purchase 750 Office licenses. The initial order must also meet the minimums for the agreement, and we already know that this is 500 devices. Now the proper term for the devices that you have to count and license is a qualified device, and it's worth understanding more about these. Here's the official definition. The first part says that a device is considered to be a qualified device if it's a PC that is capable of running Windows Pro or any device that is used to access a virtual desktop infrastructure. However, there are some exceptions, some devices that you don't have to include in the qualified device count. And you can see that if you're using a PC as a server, then you don't need to include it. Equally, if a PC is being used solely as a line of business device, perhaps it just runs hotel booking software for example, then that can be excluded, as can any device that's not managed by the organisation signing the agreement. So an organisation counts all of their qualified devices and buys at least one of the enterprise products for them. We saw earlier that the enterprise products are Windows 10 Enterprise E3, Office Professional Plus 2016, the Core CAL suite, and the Enterprise CAL suite. And we know that an organisation must commit to purchasing one of these products for every qualified device in their estate. This is what makes the Enterprise Agreement a committed programme, and a customer receives a discount for buying licences in this way. You can see that the Enterprise products are laid out in a particular way on this slide, and this indicates the different pools that are available and which product sits in which pool. So Windows 10 Enterprise E3 is a systems product, Office Professional Plus 2016 is an applications product, and the two CAL suites belong to the server pool. A customer has to commit to one of the pools, agreeing to cover all of their devices for the licenses shown. But if they choose one product from each pool, then they are said to have a platform, and that attracts a further discount. Organisations can choose between the professional desktop platform and the enterprise desktop platform, where it's the CAL suite that differentiates between the two platforms. That means that the professional desktop platform is Windows 10 Enterprise E3, Office Professional Plus 2016, and the Core CAL suite, with the enterprise desktop platform being Windows 10 Enterprise E3, Office Professional Plus 2016, and the Enterprise CAL suite. When the initial order is placed for the enterprise enrolment, a price level is set for the duration of the 3-year enrolment. You can see here that the price level is dependent on the number of qualified devices, with level D giving the highest level of discount. What's also set at the time of the initial order is the actual price that will be paid for the enterprise products during the term of the enrolment. And what I want to look at now is how the payment for these products works. This diagram shows the 3-year term of the enrolment, and we'll see what a customer pays for their enterprise products. Let's take Contoso as a customer example. They want to purchase products through an enterprise enrolment and have firstly counted their qualified devices and found that they have 2,950. They want to purchase Office Professional Plus, and we know that since this is an enterprise product, they must buy 2,950 licenses. Let's see how this works. When their agreement is set up, a price is agreed for an Office Professional Plus 2016 license with 3 years of software assurance. And this total price is split into 3, and Contoso makes an annual payment at the start of the agreement, and then on the next 2 anniversaries of the agreement, as you can see. This is great for Contoso, since they know exactly what they will be paying for Office on all of their qualified devices throughout the term of the enrolment. Let's now look at what happens if they add more qualified devices to their estate in the first year. They add devices at various times in the first year, and they don't need to pay for the Office licenses at those moments. It's all taken care of at anniversary in a process known as true-up. Another price that is agreed when the agreement is signed is what they will pay for Office licenses added in the first year, and this is actually the license cost and 2.5 years of software assurance. They pay this total amount for each device that they have added at the end of the first year. There are no options to spread the payments over the remaining term of the agreement. The same thing happens for any devices they add in the second year. A different true-up price will have been agreed, and again this is paid in total at the end of the year, and likewise for the third year. So far, we've talked exclusively about enterprise products, and we know that these are the products that Contoso must commit to across all of their qualified devices. However, their agreement also allows them to purchase the other products that they'll need, and it's time now to get some detail on how these products are acquired through the enterprise agreement. The other products that they might want to buy are called additional products, and we're going to start with software. So that's products like SQL Server or Visio, for example. Most products are available to be purchased as additional products. The main ones to be aware of that are not available are the enterprise products themselves and any single components of the core CAL suite. Products are designated as enterprise or additional products in the Microsoft Product Terms document. We saw that there is a commitment required for the enterprise products, but this doesn't apply to additional products, and in fact, they may be ordered in any quantity. And how does pricing work for these products? Well, the price level is set by the corresponding enterprise product pool. So in Contoso's case, they've ordered 2,950 Office licenses, which means that they're eligible for level B pricing in the applications pool. Any additional products that they order that fall into the applications pool will be at level B. They don't have any other enterprise products, so additional products in the systems and servers pool will be at level A. Contoso want to order Visio licenses on their initial order, and in a similar way to the enterprise products, pricing is agreed for these Visio licenses for the term of the enrolment. However, any other additional products may be purchased whenever they need them. Let's look at how payment for the additional products works. You can see that I've got the same diagram that I had for the enterprise products earlier. We know that Contoso want to include Visio licenses on their initial order, and that looks like this, which you can see is exactly the same as for the enterprise products. An annual price for a Visio license with 3 years software assurance is agreed, and they pay equal amounts at the start of the agreement and then at the next 2 anniversaries. In the same way that there was a mechanism to add more qualified devices, and thus Office licenses with the enterprise products, Contoso can add more purchases of Visio licenses at any time, and you can see here that they've chosen to do that in the first year. Again, a true-up price was agreed when the agreement was signed, and a single payment is made at the end of the year in which the licenses were added. But what about additional products that they want to add that weren't on the initial order? Is that possible? It is, of course, and in fact, Contoso want to start using Project in the second year of their agreement. Here you can see that there was no agreed price for Project, so Contoso just pay the current price for the product at the time they want to install it. And likewise, if they were to add SQL Server CALs in the final year. It's not just software licenses for products such as Visio and SQL Server that are available as additional products under an enterprise enrolment. Subscription licenses for online services are also available. These might include Visio Pro for Office 365, or a plan such as Office 365 K1, or even an add-on such as the Secure Productive Enterprise add-on. Again, there's no enterprise-wide commitment required for these licenses, and they can be added at any time in the agreement, which is what we saw with the software types of additional products. However, there is a difference in that the subscriptions for the online services may be reduced at anniversary. We'll see in a moment that you just commit to the online services up to the anniversary, and then if you need to change the amounts, you can do. This is different from the licenses that Contoso added for Project when they paid for the license and software assurance up to the end of the term for the agreement. So let's get the detail on how Contoso will pay for any online services additional products on the usual diagram. First of all, we'll look at a product that they added to their initial order, 75 Office 365 K1 plans. And this works in the way to which we have become accustomed. A price is agreed and they make annual payments every anniversary. The price that is agreed for online services is actually a monthly price, and they make payments for 12 months at each anniversary. If they want to add more of a product that was on the initial order, in this case another 25 Office 365 K1 USLs during the first year, then you can see that again they don't need to make a payment at the time they start using the licenses, they just true up at anniversary. But what do they pay at what price? Well, you can see that the monthly price for an Office 365 K1 USL was agreed when the enrolment was set up, and it's that price that is used for however many months the service was used. Looking at our diagram, it could be 10 months for 10 users, then 5 months for another 10 users, and 3 months for the final 5 users. And the months would be totaled and paid for at that true-up event. At that point, an annual payment would also be made, which would be 12 months for the 25 users. But look at my diagram. There is no annual payment at the beginning of the 3rd year. This is just to illustrate that they can reduce the number of licenses at anniversary if they want to. In the 2nd year, Contoso decide to start using Project Pro for Office 365. And you can see because this product wasn't on the initial order, they make an upfront payment at whatever the current price for the service is for complete months up until the anniversary, and then that price is used for the annual payment at the next anniversary. And the final purchase here shows that these additional products really can be added in at any time during the enrolment. Well, we've looked at how customers can buy enterprise products and additional products during their 3-year term, but what happens at the end of it? Again, using our customer Contoso, let's assume that they are happy with what their enterprise enrolment provides to them. So the first thing they will do is sign a new enrolment. If they signed the original agreement 3 years ago, all their purchases for software were for both the license and software assurance. At the end of the agreement, they own the licenses for the products, and so now they just need to renew the SA, and they will make annual payments for a year of SA when the agreement is signed, and at the 1st and 2nd anniversaries. We know that there is no ongoing commitment to the online services, and they just renew these by purchasing 12 months of the USLs at signing, and then, assuming the services will continue to be used, again at the 1st and 2nd anniversaries. Right back at the beginning, we said that licenses for the software could either be perpetual or subscription, and in the previous section we looked at the enrolment for perpetual licenses. It's time now to look at the subscription enrolment. As you would expect, there are some things that are the same as a perpetual enrolment and some things that are different. The first thing that's the same is that an organisation needs a minimum of 500 qualified devices, all of which must be licensed by one or more of the enterprise products, which are the same with the same platform options. What is different, of course, is that the licenses for these products are non-perpetual licenses, giving rights to use the software only while the enrolment is active. And another thing that is different is the way that enterprise products are paid for, and I'm going to go into detail on that on the next slide. Both software and online services may be added as additional products, and we'll see in the coming slides that the payment for additional products such as SQL Server is different, but the payment for online services that are additional products is the same. So a couple of new things that we need to cover, and let's start with how the enterprise products work. On this diagram, I've marked the years along the bottom as usual, and I've shown the different price levels up the side, which you'll notice are the same as for the perpetual enterprise enrolment. Let's take a different customer now, perhaps Northwind Traders. They've decided that subscription licenses are the best fit for them, and so they want to sign an enterprise subscription enrolment. They have 1,900 qualified devices, and so that's what they sign the agreement with. At that point, they make a payment for the enterprise products at an agreed price. At this point, it's very much the same as the perpetual enrolment, but things change at the 1st anniversary. At the 1st anniversary, Northwind Traders want to add 600 qualified devices, and so now have a total of 2,500. What happens here? Well, the enterprise subscription enrolment allows customers to change the number of qualified devices that they have at anniversary and to make a payment for the following year based on that number. So here they make a payment at the level B pricing which was agreed at signing. But at the next anniversary, if they need to reduce the number of qualified devices, they can, and they pay the relevant annual price. So with the enterprise subscription enrolment, a customer can both increase and decrease the number of qualified devices at anniversary and make a payment for the declared number of devices. I said on the initial slide in this section that there were differences in the way that payments for additional products were made when the additional products are software. So let's look at that now using the usual diagram. Northwind traders want to include Visio on their agreement and put 350 licenses on the initial order. This is what their payment schedule looks like. Now this looks pretty much the same as the perpetual agreement, but remember that Northwind traders are allowed to pay for a different number of licenses at the anniversaries and can reduce the quantities if they want to. Actually though, they need 25 more Visio licenses in the first year. And the difference here is that they must make a payment at the moment in time that they first use Visio. And then, if they want to continue using it into the following year, they make an annual payment. And you can see that the price is the same as the original price that was agreed for Visio. In this particular case, Northwind traders opt to stop using those 25 Visio licenses during the second year. Perhaps they've moved to the Office 365 version, and so they don't need to make an annual payment for it. And for products that aren't on the initial order, then it's similar to the perpetual enrolment. A payment is made when the products are first used, but here it's just for the current year, and then an annual payment is made on anniversary for the following year. I'm not going to cover the payment of online services as additional products since it is, as you may remember, exactly the same as for the perpetual enrolment. Now, because of the very nature of an enterprise subscription enrolment, there are important choices to be made at the end of the 3-year term. One choice is, of course, to sign a new enrolment, and if that isn't done, then since a customer doesn't own the licenses, they must deinstall any software they have been using. The final option is to buy out the licenses, and this essentially means converting them to perpetual licenses. You can see that there is an agreed price for every product that the customer has on their enrolment. And there are some important rules to know about if the organisation has increased the number of qualified devices in the third year. In this case, they must pay an annual fee for the additions prior to buyout. And if they do decide to buy out the enterprise products, then they must buy out the same number of licenses as they have qualified devices. As usual, there is flexibility with the additional products, and an organisation can choose to buy out some, all, or none of their additional products. I thought we'd end this section by considering the discounts that are available to customers who have signed the enterprise enrolments, and you can see that these discounts are relative to the same licenses purchased through a Select Plus agreement. The first discount is exclusive to the enterprise subscription enrolment, and is a discount relating to the non-perpetual nature of the licenses. It's obviously cheaper to subscribe to licenses than buy them. The other two discounts that are available apply to both enrolments, and the first one is the advantageous pricing you get if you commit to buying enterprise products across the whole enterprise, which, as we know, is a requirement in the enterprise enrolments. And the final discount is a further discount that's available if you're able to commit to 3 enterprise products in a platform across all of your qualified devices. Right back at the start of this session, we said that an enterprise agreement could be based on a commitment to covering all qualified devices with an enterprise product, or it could be based on buying a minimum number of user licenses. We've looked in detail at the device-based options, and now it's time to look at the type of EA that can be signed with user licenses for online services. Again, it's an enrolment that's signed under the EA, and again, there is a perpetual enrolment or a subscription enrolment. Although I've only put the enterprise enrolment on my slide, what I'm about to tell you applies to both types of enrolments, and I'll point out as we go along where there are differences. In the same way that an enterprise enrolment based on devices needs to have a minimum number of devices that are covered with enterprise products, one that is based on user licenses needs to have a minimum number of enterprise online services ordered. You can see some examples of enterprise online services here, and one important point to note is that one characteristic of an enterprise online service is not that it needs to be taken enterprise-wide. The word enterprise, when applied to an enterprise online service, is just used to denote the fact that it's one of the online services that you may start an enterprise enrolment with if you order 500 of them. In the same way that with software, some products are enterprise products and some are additional products. We have some enterprise online services, and the remaining online services are classified as additional products. It's the product terms document that details which type each online service is. So an enrolment may be signed with 500 user licenses for enterprise online services, and at that point a price level is determined. You may recall these numbers. They are the same as the ones used for price levels when you count the number of qualified devices. As well as the price level being determined, pricing for enterprise online services is also agreed for the term of the enrolment, and you can see that some familiar rules apply here. There's an annual payment made for 12 months, additional licenses can be added at any time and paid for at anniversary, at which time licenses could be reduced if required. And, as with the device-based enrolment, a customer may then buy additional products too, and again, these can be licenses for software or online services. Let's start with those online services that are classified as additional products, and I've reminded you of some of the examples. As we saw, when you add online services as an additional product to a device-based EA, there are no minimums. You can add them at any time during the year, and you pay for them at that time up until the anniversary, at which point you can reduce the amount of licenses you have and pay for 12 months in advance for the ones you want. Now, it's when we come to the additional products that are software that there are differences between the enrolments, since, of course, the licenses will be perpetual or subscription dependent on the enrolment type. Otherwise, it all works the same as adding additional products to a device-based enrolment. You can add any products that are classified as additional products, and it's worth emphasising again that you can't buy any of the enterprise products as additional products. And I'm going to take that last point just to help me summarise the differences between the agreements. Imagine that we have a third customer to help choose an agreement for. Let's use Humongous Insurance for this example. What sort of enterprise enrolment will they need? One based on devices or user licenses? When we find out what products they need, it will help us decide. And they tell us they want to buy Office Professional Plus 2016 licenses and some online services. Now, because they've chosen an enterprise product, they must take this enterprise-wide, and thus their enrolment becomes device-based, and they can add online services as additional products. So that's the rule. As soon as a customer wants an enterprise product, they must have an enterprise-wide commitment, and thus their enrolment works in the way that the first part of this session covered. Now perhaps you're wondering, what happens if a customer wants both enterprise products and enterprise online services? Well, the short answer is that an enterprise-wide commitment is still required, but there are ways of covering this with enterprise products or enterprise online services. And this is a whole topic in itself, which is covered in another module in the Get Licensing Ready portal. Let's now turn our attention to some additional agreement benefits that enterprise agreement customers have access to. The first topic I want to talk about are the options for users to use software at home. This mainly relates to Office software, and you can imagine that if a user is using the latest version of Office at work, then it would be good if he was allowed to use the same version of the software at home too. In fact, there are two options for customers to make this possible for their users. They can either make use of a special license called the Work at Home license, or an SA benefit called the Home Use Program. Let's get the detail on how these work, starting on the left hand side with the Work at Home license. This is an additional license purchase for a customer, and as you can see, it must correspond to an existing license purchased. Essentially, it may be purchased for the primary user of a device that has an Office Standard or Professional Plus license acquired through the enterprise agreement. This user would then be licensed to use the software on their PC at home for as long as they are employed by the organisation that purchased the Work at Home license for them. The other alternative is for customers who have software assurance on their desktop application licenses, which of course enterprise agreement customers do. So if they have, say, Office Professional Plus 2016 with SA, then they can buy a Home Use Program version of Office Professional Plus 2016 for the user to use on a device at home. If you have Visio or project licenses with SA, then there are Home Use Program licenses available for those products too. And what are the terms of the user using this product at home? Well, this time it's dependent on the software assurance being active, as well as the user continuing to work for the purchasing organisation. And the final benefit to talk about is that of training and evaluation licenses. You can see here that if you have an in-house training facility and want to install the software to use during training courses, then that's allowed, and the rules state that you can install each product up to 20 times if required. Equally, if you want to evaluate a particular product, then you are allowed to install any product up to 10 times for a 60-day evaluation period if required. Well, that concludes this session. Thank you for listening, and good luck when you take the associated exam.